Hello everyone. I hope you're all as excited as I am for this stream. We have quite a few amazing guests, most of them you should be familiar with at this point, and one of them you might not know yet, who I'm very excited to introduce. But first, the familiar faces. You already met Pandas. He's been my help on these streams for quite a while. He's our resident ship artist for today. Then there's our art director, Thomas Marone, who you've probably seen around on a few interviews, and he's been obviously with us for quite a while. There's Jeremy, who's hiding from the camera today, but he's showing off the ships for us, so we cannot blame him. Our lead designer, and then today, for the first time, we have our game designer, MAYO. And I'm gonna let himself introduce a little, and I think this is the question I always like to start with, is when did your love for Star Trek start?
Well, okay, so um, I'm sort of a sort of newish fan of Star Trek, to be fair. I was always aware of Star Trek, that Star Trek existed. To be fair, it's like impossible for someone to wade through the internet without being aware that it exists. But it wasn't really that popular here in South America. I guess we tend more to Star Wars. But I do remember the specific moment when I started liking the whole concept of Star Trek. I was in England. I was studying abroad, and my English teacher there, he told me about Star Trek, about how they value life, about like everything basically, and how they are always looking for a solution that's not a conflict. So, for example, he told me their weapons are always set to stun. That's like the basic the basic setting, and that's always like the last resort. They're always like, uh, let, let's look what's happening. Let's try to understand. Let's try to get to an agreement. Um, so I think that spirit of cooperation and that spirit of avoiding conflict when possible was my main draw to the show. Later on, when I started working on the game industry, my first project was another Star Trek game, and that's when I basically started researching as much as possible of of the show itself. That's when I started like watching the different shows, watching the movies, looking for the games, basically whatever I could use for my job. And well, from that I started just falling in love with the show and the different characters, the different stories, uh, the different kind of aliens, and how similar we are, even if we look completely different.
Alright, I really love that answer. I hope the rest does too. Sorry guys for the sound issues. Should be fixed now. If not, keep yelling at me in the stream chat. Alright, thank you so much for talking to us about that. Can you tell us a little bit about your work on Star Trek Online and how you started out?
Um, yeah, okay. So a normal day for me in Star Trek Online is basically taking. I'm either working on the shipyard or I'm working on other kind of like very specific content. I'm a system designer, so I'm a bit like everywhere. So, for example, whenever we get a brief for a new ship, there's a heavy amount of research that you have to do before that, and then you start coming up with concept, with ideas. For example, sometimes you just get like a very clear idea of something that seems fun for a ship to do, or maybe for even like a piece of the ship to do, and then it's figuring out how to make it work and how to make it feel fun. So a lot of my time goes into experimentation, into like figuring out what's the best way to make for something specific to happen inside the game. This has been like quite the journey. So I basically joined when early last year, and along with learning the engine, learning how the different things work, I also had to learn how people play Star Trek Online and how they enjoy playing Star Trek Online. Because basically, what I wanted to give them was something they could have fun with, be it like a complete ship, like a toy or a space Barbie, or a tool for them to do other stuff. I think that's what I really want to do. I like giving people something they can have fun with.
I love that.
Just to interrupt a little bit here, MAYO has been the sort of the catalyst, if not the whole brain sequence behind some of your recent favorites like the Voven, and it's a well-known console, as well as all the broadsiding mechanics of the which ship was it that had all the broadside?
Kerala.
The Kerala.
The Kerala. The Achilles was mine. The Premonition was mine. And the Ilios was mine. The Garrett was mine. So basically, I've been like almost everywhere. If you play, if you play the last episode on TFO, oh yes, the Nova one, the best ship in the world, of course. I just love the Nova one. I had so much fun designing that one. I spent like hours and hours just flying it. And if you play the last TFO, I was in charge of the Kitomer fleet, so that's also mine, I guess. And your battle with Tassin Faye and with Color Bex, that was also mine.
Really left a mark on on the current game.
It seems like.
Yeah, there's a lot of love and praise coming in for you, MAYO. I think we're all glad that you finally agreed to be on stream with us, so you can show off your own work a little bit and see some of the things that people were really excited for that you've done before. All right, I think I can give the mic to Jeremy now, because players are already talking and asking about what's on screen there.
Sure. Okay. Well, we're going to be talking about multiple ships today, so we're going to kind of speed through these a little bit. At least that's the idea, but we probably actually won't because we all like to talk. But these are going to be multiple ships that are going to be showing up in a legendary bundle that will be released, I believe, next week. Do I have the date correct on that?
Yes, 11th.
This will be called the Last Stand bundle. There's sort of a through line here, and the ships that will be featuring. Yeah, well, we just called it The Last Stand. I don't remember if there's a strong reason for that. I think that name came from you, Thomas. Do you want to talk to that a little bit?
You're muted, Thomas, by the way.
Thomas, you're muted on Discord.
Please talk to us.
I'm here. I'm here now. I don't want to spoil the ships, so there is a kind of a running theme for the bundle, but I'd rather talk about that kind of after we've revealed the last ship.
There's also, as within most of our modern bundles, there's additional items, exclusives. We aren't going to be talking about those this week, though. We're going to be talking about those and some other stuff next week, which also kind of feed into the theme as well. So, but without further ado, let's jump in here and start talking about the first ship, which is one that many players that have been paying attention to some of our recent leaks and such probably already anticipated this was going to be released in the near future. But we have this new livery skin that we can talk about and show off. This is the legendary, let me get its full name, the legendary NEGH'VAR Intel Dreadnought Cruiser. As always, as tradition, let's start off by talking about this amazing new material.
So
go ahead.
All right. So the material isn't actually new. It's yet another Kronos Run variant, and it's really fitting for the NEGH'VAR, especially since we see it as Garon's flagship in DS9. But as is sort of tradition with our legendary Klingon ship, this has a new Kronos 1 variant using the now iconic-ish grayish white and red livery with all of the gold trimmings that come with it. I worked on this based on the original NEGHVAR model and Votley model that was already in game. It has all of the additional gold, it has the livery, it has a bit more details and greebling that I took from the Katinga Kronos one that was seen in the Undiscovered Country and also in game as part of another legendary bundle. And it was really fun it was a really fun task to just add more gold and make an existing ship gaudy.
Yeah, so the for people who aren't familiar with Star Trek 6, Kronos 1 as a concept kind of showed up in Star Trek 6, the Chancellor's flagship. In Star Trek 6, it was a Katinga class ship, but it had its own special paint job. It had a couple of the details on the model had been changed. They added gold filigree to make it feel more kind of royal and official. And essentially, it's the Air Force One of the Klingon Empire, right? That's the allegory. And so some of the thought process behind that original Kronos one was that the all that decoration was earned accolades from victories in battle, and that as the Chancellor led his people to glory, they would add the filigree and paint and talk about the exploits of the ship and its crew and the Chancellor and everything. So it seemed appropriate when doing the NEGHVAR to do that. If Galron hadn't been killed, if his Chancellorship had lasted a longer time, what might his flagship have looked like in 5, 10, 15 years after earning the ability to wear all of this ornamentation on it.
Yeah.
And in case anybody tuning in doesn't understand the full extent of what a legendary ship is, let me go into that in a little bit of detail. So these ships are meant to, in many ways, represent the pinnacle of an entire line of ships. And so with the NEGHVAR, we have a whole line of existing costumes that are all going to be available for this ship. Anything that is in the NEGHVAR family, which is a term we sometimes use, but technically it's like anything that's on this skeleton. The new legendary ship comes with this new custom outlook, but it also includes all of the previous variants for any NEGHVAR that already exists in the game, which I think is just the NEGHVAR, NEGTEV, and Vodla. Am I saying those right?
There's one more.
There's one more. Oh,
Yeah,
you know what? I can
but-
actually just go look in the Taylor.
And yeah, like
So
Jeremy just said, yeah, this will also be able to use the newly remastered NEGTEV.
So we have the
and the
Kronos one.
The Vodla was actually that's actually a free variant that you get for the for the NEGHVAR. It just comes with any version of the NEGHVAR. It gets the NEGHVAR skin and the Vodla for free. The Vodla that's All Good Things, right? Keen. That's a version of the
Yeah.
ship from All Good Things. Yeah,
I think
and then
so.
the Kudaj is that's just an alternate skin, I think from launch.
It is showing
And
its age a little bit there.
yeah. And
But I do like the
then,
hammerhead shape. It's really cool.
Mhm.
Very angry.
Yeah, I think it's a cool design. I think it would be cool to update the model someday for sure. And then we recently did remaster the NEGTEV in anticipation of the ship release. So the people who guessed it, you guessed it right. Good job. And
I think I
then
might
of
have
course the
something
Kronos 1
set
variant.
incorrectly on my local because I don't have the NEGTEV showing here. Maybe a
no.
date is set wrong or something. But players should also have access to the NEGTEV.
It's probably not on the costume set, but it should be on the MT. So if you just gave yourself the puppet,
I did.
you wouldn't get the NEGTEV. You'd have to
Gotcha.
claim
Okay.
the MT for it. Yeah.
My failing. I'm gonna hit random just a few times here because there's some mix and match available, right? You can
Yep.
you can use that cool Kudaj head with the rest of this. Yeah, very cool. We haven't done very many Klingon ships in the recent. Oh man, that's neat. In the recent, is there anything that was like rediscovered or unique challenges to doing Klingon ships that you hadn't encountered before, Keen?
Not really. Like the task of making a Klingon ship Kronos one was something new to me though. Like when it comes down to the actual data and the ship setup, it's pretty much the same between like any type of ship, like be it Klingon or Starfleet. But usually when I have to make a ship, it's like making a new ship or intaking a ship that someone like Tobias Richter has made. And for the Kronos One task, it was kind of a breath of fresh air, since it was just taking an existing ship and being able to be creative with it. Like how would the Klingons have put the filigree on this, like looking at the existing ships like the legendary Katinga, the legendary Botasku, I think, and looking at how the previous ship artists decided to implement all of the filigree and all of the livery onto the ship. And also, it's not just the added filigree, there's also little details, like I mentioned earlier. There's like the little dome piece that was originally found on the legendary Katinga, the original Kronos One from the Undiscovered Country. I mixed and matched some pieces from the Vaudelaire and the NEGHVAR for this as well, at Thomas's suggestion. And also the bridge dome of the legendary NEGHVAR is in the style of the original Kronos One, with additional filigree around the more royal-looking, more spacious bridge dome.
Cool.
No, it's really fun to do.
All right. Any other art callouts you want to make before we move on to the functionality of the ship?
If you want to show off I don't know if you want to show off the pets now or later. But
Sure. Since we're talking about the art, so this will come with unique new hanger pets that MAYO created, and I'll go ahead and show off because they also have a unique skin. So let's where'd they go? Come here. And then get them to hold still. So these are first time we're doing chariots as a hanger pet. But yes, as you can see, they also have the Kronos One livery. Any other comments to make about this on the art side? Or should we just go ahead and take this as a segue into the mechanics?
I don't think I have too much to add. I mean, obviously, it's just making it kind of line up with the look of the Kronos One, adding the filigree onto them and the red and white color scheme. It was just fun to make a little mini version of the Kronos One with these ships.
We're calling these the Chancellor's Chariots. Is the name of the hanger pet.
And these are like runabout scale, right?
Correct. So 2 up per wing. Total 4 active at a time.
What is that called? Sorry, well, like what's the actual term you guys use to describe that scale?
I think we have used both terms, runabout and heavy fighter, for this scale.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's not cleanly defined.
Yeah.
Mid-size? I think heavy fighters is the most common terminology that we use for it, though.
Right on.
Which does mean that since it's not a frigate-sized pet, these will be usable on any ship that has a hangar bay, right? Sona, we're getting some distortion coming through your microphone. I don't know what that is. Sounds like you might be trying to talk, but it's not working.
Some Ethereum sabotage, maybe?
MAYO, why don't you tell us a little bit about the hanger pets, since we're talking about these?
Okay, so yes. So this ship, the legendary NEGHVAR, was meant to be a flagship. So any good flagship should have its honor guard. So of course we needed to make something special for the hanger pets, and well, originally what I wanted to try the Mokaijus for because I heard some people really like them, especially with their viral impulse ability. But then we decided that something more contemporary was better. So basically these were made from scratch. and they feature disruptor weaponry, and they have a special ability which is called the Disruptor Cascade, which is like a light version of the trait of the legendary NEGH'VAR. So basically what this will do is it works in a similar way to Camel Sight laser weaponry, but in this case it gives these pets a boost to their disruptor damage.
It's only active periodically, but you might have seen as soon as I sent these guys on attack, there were some disruptor explosions that happened. Seems to have a pretty high cooldown, but there it is. It's building up again. Doing these extra AoEs around the target.
Yeah, so basically each one of these pets can do the ability by themselves, so each one will have its own cooldown. So there's a chance you might see them like fairly constantly.
They also seem to have access to rapid fire.
Yes, the different levels will have rapid fire from level 1 to 3, depending on if it's the normal, the advanced, or the elite version.
Sounds great. So these are very offensive focused pets, yes?
Yes. Basically, I wanted to keep something that was a really strong punt and will go well alongside a ship like the NEGH'VAR.
I apologize if anybody watching sees the frame rate drop occasionally when I tab out to look at our documentation. Okay, so I see a lot of people in the chat asking about other capabilities of the ship. I'm going to clean up the area and then we can talk about its sort of general identity, seating, and all that. So let's start with just general identity. I'll show the inventory here while we talk about that.
Okay, so I think that the biggest talent for designing the legendary NEGHVAR was that if you look into the NEGHVAR family, they are mainly command ships, or well, they are designed to be command ships. And if you were to follow like step by step that lineage, you will get something really similar to the legendary Vortasku. And of course, because we don't want basically to have this ship fighting among themselves, the challenge was to come up with something that still retained the identity of the NEGHVAR while going into a different direction. So
I recall that being a conversation of why this ended up being a dreadnought cruiser, because I think
yes.
Yeah.
There
was a lot of that. I remember a lot of back and forth early in the days, like, hey, we could do this, but we've already done it. So what do we do different?
Sorry, I lost my track of.
My bad. I probably interrupted.
So yeah, the idea of the honor guard was like always there from the beginning. So while looking for what will be a good step to take to not get into the path of the Vortasku, basically that's where the Dreadnought Cruiser idea came from. It has like a good enough balance of striking capabilities while still being different enough to be its own thing and not rather just like a reskin of the Vortasku. And it also had the hangar bay, which will fit the new hangar pets. And well, in terms of what we can see, the 5-3 layout is of course because it's it takes from the general shape of the ship. You can tell that this thing it's made to just fire forward. I think that a lot of Klingon design philosophy goes along those ways. So it was sort of an easy decision to take. Although in the beginning I really wanted to make it a 4-4, but after some discussion we decided that it was a 5-3 was for the best.
So legendary ships, again, just to reiterate for anybody that might be new to the game, legendary starships don't come with new consoles of their own, but they include all of the previous consoles from the entire lineage. With the NEGHVAR, most of its lineage is lower tier ships, unfortunately, so there's only one console. This is one that already exists in the game, but it will be pre-equipped on this ship. This is the only NEGHVAR console that exists. It will also come with all the pre-existing traits from the entire lineage, of which I believe there were just one.
One,
So
yeah.
explosive polarity
Yeah.
shift, which is already on one of the other NEGVARs. I think it's also on one of our Galaxy variants. So there are multiple ships where you could have obtained this trait. But again, as with any legendary ship, it does come with a new trait, which is an account unlock when it occurs. And so I'll hover over this, but if you want to talk a little bit about the design of this new starship trait.
Yeah, of course. So this idea came to me while reading about doing some research. I went right back to the basics. So, for example, I wanted to take the disruptor damage and see what we could do with that. Because we have done a lot with phaser on some anti-proton recently, but I thought, well, disruptor could use some love too. And while reading the description, the general description of what disruptor weaponry does, it works by basically disrupting the bonds between atoms and molecules. So I immediately got transported back to my years in high school, where I was in chemistry class, and I was told that, well, molecular bonds have a specific shape, and that's because the different electromagnetic fields contest. It's basically like having like an assortment of magnets and trying to keep them stable. So there's actually a very set number of angles that this can take. So that was one idea. The next idea was, okay, you probably have heard the story about the Martin band, which crossed the bridge, and the bridge fell over because it started resonating in a harmonic way. So I thought, okay, what will happen if especially tuned disruptors, weapons, started applying a resonant force on the molecular bonds? So the idea was that it would make them like move around or swing rather more and more until you generate this cascade effect where the bonds can no longer remain stable. And at that point is when you get basically a big explosion. Well, this
all that
yeah.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Please don't quote me on a science paper, because this is like knowledge from high school back a lot of years ago.
We don't have to be 100% accurate. Just wave your hands and say subspace did it.
Yeah. So no, but I wanted it to ground it a bit. So I believe that good science fiction, it has some grounding on actual science. So I wanted to give that thing. So basically what we see here is that when you activate this trait, your direct energy weapons will be enhanced and will apply a DOT, a disruptor DOT that will stack. This is the resonating effect. And once you get to the max stack, which is 15, they all trigger a big explosion, which will be the cascade effect.
And I'm not showing up well here, but I do want to call attention to this. Works really well with AoE weaponry, with the scatter volley or fire at will, because you can be building up these stacks on multiple targets at the same time. Also in the demonstration here, I only have 3 weapons firing, but if you're doing broadsiding with a full 8 weapons on your target, all using disruptor damage, then building up these stacks and explosions can happen quite readily, quite rapidly.
And you can see how this is similar to the Hunger Pets version. So it's basically the idea is that both the NEGHVAR and the Hunger Pets got this technology, this special technology for the weaponry.
There's a 30-second lockout with a 30-second uptime, so it's 50% uptime. I just tried to activate it again and failed, so that reminded me. But yeah, activating any engineering or intel ability would get you the proc, and then you can build it up, and then it'll explode. Pretty fun. And as some people in the chat have noted, there's not a lot of options that specifically synergize with disruptor damage in the game. There are some, but we figured, just as Mayo already said it, building one more into a legendary starship seemed like appropriate for the general Klingon identity for this ship.
So,
All right. Real quick about the seating, just in case it wasn't like it's already on the screen, but just to state it here. So it's an Intel primary. So the engineering seat is Intel, and it has is it Miracle Worker command secondary?
Yep.
On the
it's a command secondary. So basically you'll have the possibilities to choose between, okay, am I doing a surgical strikes build, or am I doing forgot the name. The lieutenant commander ability from command is
concentrate firepower.
Concentrate firepower. Thank you. So yeah, you basically this should be flexible enough for any kind of, or not any kind, but for a bigger variety of playstyles.
Okay, as I mentioned at the top of this stream, we have 3 ships to go through, so I'm ready to switch to the next one unless there are any major questions that we need to answer. There's a question about synergies, what buffs the disruptor explosion. Anything that you have that is a piece of gear or passive that says plus disruptor damage will increase the damage that the straight does. However, if it says directed energy damage, then this is not a directed energy weapon, so there's not everything will enhance it. Does it have a lance? That's a good question. Does it? I don't think it does. Oh, but I did want to call attention to the Bortosk has a lance, doesn't it? That's why we didn't do it.
I don't remember why we didn't do it. We did discuss it at some point, but it just didn't happen in the end.
I think it was because this one has a hangar and the Bortosk doesn't, so we created new hangar pets. But I do want to call out that we did give this ship enhanced battle cloak. This is kind of a nod to its Intel primary. A ship this size typically doesn't have enhanced battle cloak, but this is another build option, as you were saying. Like it should be possible to build this as a concentrate firepower ship, a torpedo boat, and an enhanced battle cloak can help out with those builds, certain types of those torpedo builds. So yeah. All right, I'm going to go ahead and switch to our second ship, and then we'll go back to talking about the art associated with that. Surprise, everybody! Thomas, why don't you take it away? I think you're muted again.
I get muted. I mute myself when I stop talking, just so I don't accidentally make 40-year-old man noises. When the mic is on. But as Chad has already put together without needing to hear me say what I said, this is the legendary Nebula. Long have people awaited this. This is, I'll let you all speak to the stats, but visually, this is based on the USS Melbourne, one of the ships that was destroyed at the Battle of Wolf 359. This actually does play into the theming of the legendary Last Stand bundle name. The Melbourne was destroyed at Wolf 359. Along with 40 other Starfleet ships. I always thought this was kind of a funny. This is some people call this the Proto Nebula. I think this is the first time that we saw any variant or version of the Nebula. Is that right, Keen? Was this kind of the Kit Bash wreck?
We see this as a Kit Bash wreck and the Best of Both Worlds Part 2, and that predates any other appearance of the Nebula. It was done by, I think, Michael Kuda and Ed Marareki as a quick kit bash for the debris field. So this was the first time we see the Nebula, and so fans call it the Proto Nebula, Prototype Nebula.
Right,
Was this
this is
a shuttle model kit strapped to the back of it?
So they used like Gundam model kit parts for some of these kit bashes. I think that might have been like a shield or something originally for like a Gundam. I don't know, or like a chess piece or something. I modeled this for both worlds, the both worlds release, and for the Wolf 359 TFO, because it was really important to me that we had all of those ships in that TFO. Like we had to have all of them. And so that meant modeling some ships that I knew that, like, I didn't know when we released them, but I modeled the Melbourne variant here based on Donnie Versage's original Nebula model, and I modeled the Freedom, which the ship artist didn't have time to make those, so I just made them myself. But the obviously the standout feature on this guy is the two little bitty nacelles. I have a whole headcanon about this that I'll share in a second. But I do want to say that this is fully customizable with other nebulas, which is actually kind of cool because if you notice, the hull on the bottom actually sticks out a lot further. It's just kind of a standard Galaxy hull, right? This was probably made with like an AMT Enterprise D kit. A model kit kind of mixed around, and so they just use the standard like out of the box Galaxy hull and then tack stuff onto it, so it gives a very different like longer profile than a standard nebula might. If you we can go into the Taylor to kind of compare it, and then the little pod on the back, that is the that we treat that as the mission pod on the nebula skeleton. So so that's what swaps out there. If you want to swap out the hulls, you can kind of, if you look at it from the side and swap the hulls out, you can kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about here, about how it kind of pulls in. But the pod is designed to work with the original Nebula hull. So the Nebula's got a lot of customization now, and you can kind of really tailor it to whatever sort of headcanon you want. The as far as speaking of headcanon, as far as the engines on the back, my personal feeling on that is that this is actually a oh no, I forgot how I set that up. That's even cooler. I forgot how I did it. That's even better. So that little pod thing there is actually the neck. And then the engines are the mission pod. So you can have like that. If you like the look of that little pod thing, you can still have the engines on top of another neck. Some of it's goofy, but some of it actually I think works pretty well. That one's probably the goofiest one.
This one
But
here.
yeah. But people
At
like
least
to
not
do.
floating in space.
But what I'm happy about though is that it gives you, like, if you go to the Melbourne what do you call that, the center pylon,
Mhm.
and then you can change the mission pod out, right? And then that can interact with the others in the thing in a different way, which is pretty cool.
I like that.
And it gives you, it's kind of actually a bit more sleek and longer with that longer hull, so I think it's got some really interesting customization options. As for what that, my headcanon about Melbourne and what it is, I think I look at it as a long range, like, salvage ship for like big like hulks that you might encounter, or like say you need to move a starbase, right? Or you need to you find a was that Ranma cylinder or whatever, a Rama cylinder, or you find the whale probe, or the inert doomsday machine after Kirk and company blow it up. It's still out there, right? And you probably don't want the Klingons to get a hold of stuff like that, so you probably need ships that have kind of these are just big, like, towing things that can help you tow at warp. So the way I kind of look at it as, the ship would go to a derelict like that, they would detach the little pod on the back with the warp nacelles, and then that thing would actually dock with whatever they're moving, and it
Oh, a
generates its
copod.
own and it generates its own warp field around whatever it's towing, in conjunction with the mothership, right? So the nebula itself would be generating the bigger warp field, but the secondary ship would also kind of be able to go on top or the opposite side or whatever.
That's cool.
and fill that out. So that's my headcanon. That is not supported anywhere. I am the only person that kind of is putting that out there in the universe, but
Yeah,
I
I don't
think it's
think we did
a cool way to
anything with
explain
that
it.
in the mechanics for the ship.
No, I was not consulted, but that's okay.
That's funny, 'cause
I've
usually
seen
we
other
do work
people.
together, but
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've seen other people talk about it as like, oh, they were like test bed prototype nacelles or auxiliary nacelles from the main ship. I think ultimately, whatever you want to think it is, that's up to you and
yeah.
how you play it. But I just wanted to share that because I think it's a weird variant. It's one of those things where typically my arc with weird stuff like this is like the first time I see it, I'm like, that's stupid, and then I have to make it for my job, and then after I make it, I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of neat. That's kind of weird. I could see how that could work, and then I end up liking it by the end.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just gonna hit randomize a few times to show off the customization.
And we're not seeing
I'm
the
really partial to,
Sutherlands. Mhm.
I'm really
Yeah, the
partial
Phoenix
to
Pod's super cool.
the Magellan overall, but
Yeah.
no, wait, not Magellan.
Um,
What is Phoenix? Yeah, Phoenix.
Phoenix, yeah.
I like the big round pod.
So we're not. I do want to make a point that we're not seeing any of the Sutherland or Monitor options, but those are included in the Legendary.
Yeah.
All the existing Nebula version, including the Starfleet and Mirror versions of the Sutherland, the Nebula and the Monitor, and the Fleet Nebula materials as well will be
Yep.
included in the Legendary.
Someday I'll remember to set these up through the microtransaction for live streams, but that day is not today. Okay, let's go talk a little bit about how this ship is built. This was kind of a joint effort between you and I, Mayo, if I remember correctly. Which, man, this was like 3 months ago at this point. But didn't you do most of the paper design and then I did the implementation for you? Is that how we work this?
Yeah. Basically, I did the research on the stats and powers and proposed a few ideas of how this should go. I was scheduled to work on this, but my work on the episode and the DFO took longer than expected at the time, so I had to switch over. But I think that it worked out in the end.
So the core identity was kind of your inspiration. I remember taking your lead on that. So that players can see, the full name is the Legendary Nebula Temporal Science Spearhead. So it is a 4-3. It does not have a hangar bay. It is a science ship, so it has secondary deflector and all of that. Do you remember? Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration that led to this in particular, its identity, what we were aiming for with the ship setup?
I would love to, but as you said, it was 3 months ago. I can't really remember much.
Yeah, well, let me try to riff from memory. So obviously the lineage of the Nebula overall and all of its variants has always been science. And that is evident in not just the seating and stats and everything like that, but also even in the consoles and the starship traits that have been part of this lineage. There's a lot of talk about tachyons and tetrions and using stealth detection and things like that. So it did feel like a natural fit that in order to exemplify the whole lineage, that this needed to be a super science ship. So in a lot of ways, temporal operative is like science plus in a lot of ways. So it felt like a natural fit for that. And I do remember in particular, you encouraged us to stick with something that would be maybe not the new meta ship, but very within the meta builds for what an exotic damage ship or directed energy exotic ship, how that would get built out. So that is evident in its seating and its consoles and everything. So temporal primary with a miracle worker secondary, I believe this is. Yeah. Again, focused on a lot of either universal console builds or EPG builds or directed energy / EPG builds, those sorts of things. That's what we're hoping this ship can serve the purpose of. And as a legendary, of course, it comes with all the previous consoles from its whole lineage, which, as I said, are like tachyon and tetrion based. And this kind of factored into what we ended up doing with the new starship trait. You see it comes with the existing starship traits. And here's the new one. So this particle fluctuation analysis is meant to work with universal consoles. Did my stream die?
No.
No, that was a
unless-
a cat on my keyboard. I'm sorry. Stream is back on.
Okay.
Was just gone for a second.
Sorry, I have it up on my other monitor and it just went blank for a minute. Sorry. Okay, so activating Universal Console gives you the following buffs to yourself and nearby players. So this is kind of an identity that I wanted to riff on, which is not just being a selfish science ship, but also being able to help your allies in some way. So whenever you use Universal Console, you get all these buffs for yourself and for nearby allies. They stack. I also integrated healing criticals into this, which are not very common in our game, usually only found in the Miracle Worker specialization. But using this can also, if you're using heals for any reason, can help you keep yourself and your teammates alive. So it's a pretty straightforward, but it synergizes directly with that Universal Console type of focus. And that's about it. There's not much more to say about this. It's a pretty bog standard temporal science or science spearhead. There's nothing else that comes special on this ship. No hangar pets, no lance, anything like that. So yeah, just what we're hoping is going to be a very solid science vessel for all of your Universal Console / EPG builds. And that is the Legendary Nebula. Are we ready to move on to the third and final ship for today's stream?
Let's do it.
I saved this one for last because I think this will surprise players the most, pleasantly, I hope. So here we have the Legendary DHEALAN Pilot Warbird. Go ahead and take us away with this, Thomas.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. And I have to admit that originally we weren't going to go quite this direction, but then Phil Dunn, the Deca art lead, suggested that we do a Romulan ship to round out this bundle, and it was a great idea. And so we decided, okay, well, what are our options for a Romulan ship? And I think we kind of landed on the DHEALAN because it could be more tactical focused, which would be a good, contrast to the engineer battle cruiser of the NEGH'VAR and the science ship Nebula. So that's why we landed on the DHEALAN, which if it's a little weird doing a legendary on it, but the more we thought about it, the more we thought there was a really cool opportunity here to investigate an era of Romulans that we've actually never seen in canon. And so what we decided to do was, what did Romulan ships look like during the motion picture era, or in the or what we may call the Lost era of Star Trek? And so the concept for this ship was, what were the warbirds that the Enterprise C fought at Narendra 3? And that kind of is part of the legendary Last Stand theming. So you have the Galron died in glory, in I guess sort of glorious battle, and the Melbourne was destroyed at Wolf 359, and then these ships were there at the Last Stand of the Enterprise C. This ship was designed by Jamie Armstrong Hughes. Just a totally new take on Romulan ship design. Again, filling out like let's explore this era, something that we've never really done in STO. Most of our Romulan ships have all meant to be kind of 24th, 25th century or TOS, right? But we haven't really tried to establish a visual style like this for the Romulans. And I'm really pleased with how this turned out. We really leaned heavily into, that era of ship designs, and model work is very inspired by Art Deco, and that seemed really appropriate for the Romulans too. very like severe lines inspired by like Roman architecture. Obviously, Romans were a big inspiration for the Romulan culture, so we lean into that. We also wanted it to feel like it was kind of halfway between the Dideridex, the Talus and the Dideridex, right? And so that's why we've kind of got this silver steel look that feels a little white. That's the Talus, and then we've got the green areas for the Dideridex.
A little bit of this
To
open wing
lean into.
language too.
Yeah, and that's really the DHEALAN, lineage coming through. And then if you look at the bottom, we just topped it off. I was like, we were like technically done with it, and I was like, no, we gotta have the bird. We gotta put the bird on it.
Put a bird on it.
Put a bird on it. But
That's
we
such a great
decided to
detail.
make it. Yeah, we decided to make it gold just to kind of it fits better with the rest of the ship, and it gives it its own visual identity. As an era and a piece of ship design. So.
I really love this
King,
fantail because it's
yeah.
both birdie and like a Roman centurion armor.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
And
Keen,
it's
you did
almost
the
like
intake
marble.
on this, right?
Yep, I did the intake on this. The model for this was done by the ever wonderful Tobias Richter, and I had the opportunity to put it in the engine and get it set up, all the data, all the kit bashing stuff, as well as making sure the material and everything looked right on it. One of the details that I got to work with you, Thomas, on the ship is because, in the original concept, there weren't detailings for things like phaser emitters, well, in this case, plasma emitters and such. So we worked together and you gave me like a rough idea of what you wanted. So I just modeled it, and after a few iterations, you can see Jeremy is showing a set of emitters off at the nose of the ship. Those are a design that, since we don't see the TMP Lost Era style Romulan ships, so we designed emitters that sort of blended how Federation emitters look and how Romulan design is. So it has its own greebles and such that we put on it.
One of the weird things about this era of Star Trek that I don't really even know that they knew what they were doing when they were writing Star Trek 6, but there's sort of a implied detente between the Romulan Empire and the Federation. If you look at what happens in Star Trek 6, the Romulan ambassador is present at some very high security, high level meetings with the Federation president and some members of the Starfleet Command and Federation Council, like very much, we are going to declare war on the Klingon Empire kind of stuff. Like you don't really get to be in that room unless you're, the closest of allies. And so I think, I think that's something that is interesting about that era that nobody really, I think, really talks about or explores. And so it made sense to me that maybe there is some technology sharing or a little bit of back and forth between the Romulan and Federation ships at the time. But
Only Enterprise would have gotten one more season, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not quite the same era, but it would have. The rumors were that it was going to touch on the Sublight War, the introduction of the Romulans.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be. It would be cool to explore that more someday.
All right, I'm going to go into the Taylor. I don't remember if Romulan ships have a lot of piecemeal customization, but you should have all the other DeLon skins.
Yeah.
Again, if you do it through the microtrans correctly.
You're missing the Hathos, but yeah, it should have the Detra,
The
DeLon, and I
Hathos and
think the Dale.
Yeah, the Dale as well.
So
Which
yeah,
will be
they'll
here
have more
if you
customization.
purchase it through the microtrans. It'll work correctly.
Right.
So not a lot to show off here. Let's go and talk a little bit about the ship's functionality then. Okay, well, as I already mentioned, this is a pilot warbird. This is the first time we've done a warbird in a while, so it does have the singularity mechanics. It is a full-on Romulan warbird. We're not cutting any corners there. So singularity powers, we don't have very many pilot warbirds either, so this has a bit of a unique niche for itself there. 5-2 weapons layout, very aggressive. We did not create a new experimental weapon for this, but this is one that came on previous lineage within the DHEALAN family, is the railgun. And then these other consoles are from other ships within the DHEALAN lineage, including the railgun destabilizer. And then also, of course, you unlock the starship trait Hit and Run, which was a direct inspiration for the new starship trait that was created by this one called Peregrine Thrust. Now, this is both a harken back to the hit and run mechanic, but also there's this through line of swordplay in Romulan mythos and culture. So the idea of like playing homage to sword fighting a little bit with the name of this. It also matches up a little bit with the functionality. So whenever you use evasive maneuvers, brace for impact, or your pilot maneuvers, you get a stack of this buff. And passively, while you have this buff, your critical severity with your weapons is increased, but then you chew through the buff yourself by fighting others. Every time once per second, when you attack somebody with your directed energies, you consume a stack to do additional plasma damage. So this is essentially a way of turning some of your defensive maneuvers into offensive firepower temporarily with this ship. There's no internal lockouts or anything, although you can't have more than 5 stacks at a time. So, but you can continuously refresh them if you have access to reducing the cooldowns on your evasive maneuvers or brace for impact or any of that. You can continue to build it up, and I can just show you a little bit of that with using pilot maneuvers. We get, oh, it didn't work. Oh, you have to be in combat. Silly me.
One thing about the art, Keen, we did add all the other materials, the newer Romulan materials to the ship, didn't we? When
yeah, it should all be there. I don't think I missed any, but yeah, with this update, all ships in the LAN family will have materials that should be available for all Romulan ships.
which includes the newer like Dederidex and Talist material or Tavaro material and the what do we call the Ronandare or whatever, the T6 material.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. And also, this ship it's the legendary DHEALAN, but the class of ship is called the DHEALAN, and it has its own DHEALAN material and windows.
Oh no! This is visual bug. The hit effect's hitting me instead of the target.
Oh no!
That's easy enough for us to straighten out. But you can see, use pilot maneuver, get the stacks, and then use them. You're seeing the explosion hitting me instead of the target, but you get the gist of it. That's how it works.
That's why it's good to do a stream a week early.
I definitely want this ship. It's just perfect for me.
Yeah, it's definitely going in my collection.
I think I'm more partial to at least to fly around in the legendary Nebula, but I do just love this sleek design of the ship.
Oh yeah.
I put this. I don't know whose brains came together to make this, but it's beautiful in my opinion. I really love it. I hope we get to do more ships in this time
all
frame.
credit to Jamie Armstrong Hughes, the concept designer on this one. They did a great job, like bringing that era to life in a way that, I mean, that my brief for them really was like, okay, if you pan over from the Excelsior or the Reliance or the Enterprise A, and there was a Romulan ship part next to them in those movies, right? Like, what would that ship look like? And so that's you know, in some ways you kind of have to think about it has to be restrained in ways that I think our modern ships aren't. You know, those ships, when you're building a physical model, curves are expensive, right? And so a lot of those ships had straight lines in certain places. They had perfect circles in a lot of places. They had bends, but they also had, you know, just like right angles and stuff, and because they had to make the thing. It had to be a real thing, right? So that gives it, that demands a certain simplicity and a certain proportion that it was important for me that we sort of execute on our model, even though we're not bound by those same constraints. If we wanted this to fit in, then we should be, right, for that to work.
Yeah,
And
I've
so
heard you say
was
that before.
Yeah.
Like, we have to build a lot of our starships in a way that remembers that they were originally models, physical things that were built out of wood and plastic. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's how you get something that fits in next to, because we faithfully recreate the wood and plastic ships, right, with or fiberglass or whatever they're made out of. We faithfully recreate those. So if we want our new designs to fit in next to them, then we have to build our new designs by the same rules.
There's also a little bit of like trying to channel the art directors, the model builders of those days, and their sensibilities.
Yeah. Nilo Rodas is a big one. He designed the Bird of Prey. And did he do the Excelsior too? Or no, that was Bill George, wasn't it?
He did. Nilo Rodas did the Excelsior concepts. Bill George did the final one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's just some legends. And Nilo Rodas has done a lot of stuff. If you look him up, you'll probably be like, oh, he did that. Oh, he did that. Like he's pretty incredible stuff.
All right. Well, I think that's all that we have to show today. We have more bundle details that we'll talk about next week on the day that it comes out, right? Do you want to? I don't know if there's anything else to tease about next week. There's another thing, right? I don't want to talk about it though.
No.
Yeah, I'm bummed. I'm actually traveling, and I'm really, really, really sad that I'm not going to be around for that one.
Oh,
It's gonna be so good.
We are also really, really sad. But you guys should keep an eye on our social media and Discord over the next days, because me and Pandas and the amazing Miko, who has worked on something that we're revealing next week, have been working on a little bit of a treasure hunt for you guys. So we'll leave some hints for the upcoming reward that we will talk about next week throughout our social media and Discord. And you guys could maybe find out a little early what we're talking about if you follow all these hints. But we're not going to do any teasers here, because I think we've also been really excited for it. But yes, we have...
Just get them excited to tune in.
Yes, exactly. You should tune in next week with all of us. Well, Thomas already said he's not going to be available, and MAYO is also probably not going to be here, but we're going to have Miko on, maybe some other familiar or new faces to talk about what's coming. And
Awesome.
if you guys have any last questions, you can... Yes.
Yeah, do we know yet the price of the bundle? I think that would be a good thing to announce here.
I don't have that info yet.
Okay, we'll be sure to have that on the next stream then, when we or maybe
Yes.
even before if we want to put it on socials or something. But since we'll be talking about more of the other stuff that's in the bundle, the non-ship stuff, next week, we'll let you know.
Yes, we'll let you know all the details, and as always, there will be a ship log coming out for all the ships. As soon as Jeremy writes it, everybody tell Jeremy to please write it. The deadline is today.
Yeah, everyone add Jeremy on Discord, please.
Wait, today what time zone though?
Mine! No, there you will get the usual ship logs, and next week you'll talk to some of us again about what else is coming, because there's also a new event coming next week. 2 new events actually coming next week. And you guys have a moment. Oh, do you know yet, Jeremy? Will those ships only be available in the bundle, or will players be able to buy them separately?
No, legendary ships are never separate. They are always found only in a bundle.
Alright guys, you heard it here. That means I have to save up too. Because I'm definitely getting that pilot. Because it's the only ship I can fly.
Additional goodies. It's some additional fun toys within the bundle that we'll talk about next week.
Yes.
And those also tie into the Last Stand theme.
Yes.
In some fun ways. So.
Yes, so please tune in. Also, because I'm gonna be sad if you don't. And I'll post ship pictures. I'll post cat pictures of the culprit from tonight on the Discord. So all you guys should join the Discord. Also, so you can all tag Jeremy to write the ship logs for me. And if you have any concerns, questions, there's usually devs around. That love talking to you about the things they work on. So join us all on our Discord. I'm currently doing, as you might have seen, the giveaway. And then that's it for tonight. Unless you have any last minute questions for any of the people on here.
I hope you are all very excited about seeing more Klingon and Romulan ships. Just to confirm, this was the tease that I did like 2 months ago or whatever it was, when asked about new Romulan ships. And I said, stay tuned. This is it. There's not more coming at the moment, but you're welcome.
Yes, I think that's one of the most asked questions whenever we do a ship stream is when will we do something that's not a fat ship? So,
All right, captains, we are back here on the bridge. It looks like they ended the stream there off to actually raid Vengeance God. So we're just gonna put the volume down, let that ad play out for him. But an interesting reveal, which is the Last Stand Legendary bundle. My first initial thoughts, I'm not superly impressed, to be honest, if I'm being honest. Now, of course, we're gonna have to DQ. We're gonna have to definitely look over the blogs a little bit, but some things I did take notes of for the NEGHVAR. Obviously, love the NEGHVAR. That thing should have. I'll still stand on where I thought that ship should have released, which was the year of the Klingon. I don't know why they didn't release it the year of the Klingon along with the board or the Bortisque, which is kind of weird in a way, but it is what it is. It is an intel, and it has chariot pets. So I did always like the chariot pets there, the ship that you get as a vet captain. As you can see that there is Vengeance God starting. Like this wasn't planned at all to raid Mr. Vengeance God. But the trait kind of sounds interesting. Something about it be similar to Chemocyte but this time disruptor explosions. Pretty cool. To be honest, I don't really fly much my Klingons and or even my Romulan mains because even my Romulan has disruptor, so I'm not too sold on it, but I do love the skin. The Kronos 1 skin looks absolutely beautiful. Now, the NEBBY. NEBBY. The battle pancake was something I was kind of looking forward to, but I'm kind of not feeling the seeding there. It is a 4-3. The 4 in the cell thing is pretty cool. Again, the proto NEBBY. But if I'm not mistaken, I only saw like a lieutenant tactical, like one tactical station. There might have been a universal station we missed, but again, we'll go over that when we go over the blog. The trait sounded kind of interesting. So with universal console usage, it grants you additional crit chance and severity if I'm not mistaken. So that could be a thing. Not sure. We'll have to see what the DPS meta, well, let's just be honest, casual SAB says about it, but wasn't too impressed with the stations, if I'm going to be honest. Love the 4-3, but the stations leave a lot to be desired. Again, forgot to mention the NEGHVAR is an Intel, which that works fine, but the NEBBY, it is a temp psi. I was kind of hoping a command ship, sort of last stand, make it a more offensive ship, the prototype ship. I don't know, that would have been just me, but my chances of having a full-on command NEBBY just went down the toilet. Lastly, the DHEALAN Pilot Warbird. It is, like I said, a pilot ship, but that skin was a bit of an oof. I did not like it, if I'm going to be honest. It does have the aesthetics of like the older Romulan ships, which of course I appreciate the research and what they tried to bring forward with that ship. There's no new experimental weapon, unfortunately, but the trait, parry and thrust, looks like if you use pilot abilities or like brace for impact, it stacks crit severity, I think. Again, we'll go over that in the blog, but overall, the last stand legendary bundle, I'm on the fence, to be honest, Caps, about it. I'm happy that they finally added the legendary NEGHVAR. We have another Romulan ship. Of course, we have now the proto NEBBY, but for some reason, I'm just kind of on the fence for it. But again, we'll wait and see what the blogs bring and hopefully go into it in more detail and see if we can make a decision on if we're going to purchase that or not. Speaking of that, we don't have the price. I'm thinking with discount, it's probably going to be around the 12 to 15,000 Zen range, which we can't afford. But again, I'm going to have to see what that brings. Now, while we're here, captains, we're going to go over the latest from the X feed. I will make sure I timestamp all of this, hopefully for when they went over the ships like the NEGHVAR, the NEBBY, the DHEALAN, my thoughts, and of course the latest. We'll just give this a refresh just in case. Of course, there was the stream that we just did. Want to know more? Yeah, that was just what we did. It looks like there was a couple reviews about it, but there is this news here, which we'll go over right now. Drop the ECs, and it looks like it's for the console bridge, so bundle sale. So limited time bundles are on sale in the Zen store for 35% off, which is the highest sale for the Xbox and PlayStation. So that starts as the drop of this video up until the 9th of November there. So my console caps, you can get that going there. And that is the latest from the XU. That's all there. So very short update vid on that, or update segment. But again, kind of surprised with the legendary bundle here, the last quarter of 2025. And for me, again, it's going to be on the fence until we see more and find out more about that. But it seems more of a, I guess it's both. You kind of get your space Barbie with the ships, obviously, and it sounds like has some good potential traits and maybe consoles, more traits, I think, more, rather than consoles, because there's no real new consoles, no new experimental weapons, sadly. But we'll have to wait and see. So that's going to be it for this video. Captains, do us a favor, hit the like button, comment below, let us know your thoughts on the legendary ships that you just saw. And of course, if you're new here, consider subscribing to the YouTube bridge, and we'll just leave it on this note.
Live long and prosper.